In three, two. All right, it's time to talk with our featured guest, Dr. Andrew Vallo. Andrew, how's it going?
Hey, Michael, I'm doing great. How's Monday treating you so far?
Monday, it's been like I told you, we were talking a little bit before this. It's been a hot one, like already. You know what I mean? Went outside, little run, and then I'm like, oh, man, it's gonna be one of them days where we got to start early. What about you?
Uh, Going well. Yeah, I guess you're West Coast time, so like 9 a.m. right now. I'm in the East Coast, so it's like noon lunchtime. But it's been good. I've had a couple interviews. I'm actually hiring in the process of trying to hire three different team members for two offices. So that just means a lot of my weekends are Zoom calls and things like that. But
Yeah, that's interesting. Are you able to find a good amount, or
yeah, I mean, I know a lot of the country is kind of dealing with hiring issues right now. I would say maybe right now Tampa is a pretty booming market, so maybe that is kind of helping out. We're pretty close to the city, so I feel like the applicant pool might be bigger. But also just some of the tactics I use, the ads I put out, they don't look like your average dental ad, and then we compensate pretty well. We offer some cool bonuses and incentives and stuff like that. So I personally have not really had an issue finding applicants. It's just making sure you find the right ones for your team.
gotcha. How do your ads look like?
Um, so they basically start out and they ask a bunch of questions like, are you interested in joining an amazing office with a great culture where the whole team likes coming to work every day? And, would you like to support an office that supports the Humane Society of Tampa Bay with our No Hungry Pets program? Are you interested in making full-time pay on a 4-day work week? Just like I basically asked them like 5 questions off the bat. And I feel like that kind of draws people into our ads. So
Yeah, I feel like that. At least to me, I'd be like, yeah, like to all of that. You know what I mean? So, like, where does the funnel shorten? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of once we kind of draw them in and we talk a little bit about the position, the requirements, what we're looking for. The nice thing about Indeed is it lets you put qualifying questions. So the longer I've been doing this, the more qualifying questions I put. So I usually have like 6 or 7 qualifying questions to make sure like they fit the criteria I'm looking for, in my next hire. And the people that don't want to fill out those little questions, they just automatically get rejected because if you can't take 5 minutes to answer a few questions, then you're obviously not a good fit for us.
Hmm.
But it helps. I mean, it definitely helps us narrow down the pool because otherwise I might get 100 people apply for a job, and obviously I don't have time to sit through 100 interviews or 100 resumes for different jobs we have. So
Yeah. What are the qualifying questions? How do those look like? Same ones or no? Different.
no, those are more like what am I looking for? So like how many years of experience do you have doing this position? And depending on the position and the time I'm hiring it, I might be looking for someone with 2 years experience, 5 years experience. And if they don't answer, at least the number that we're looking for, it automatically sends them to our rejected pile. I'm looking for my implant office. I want someone who already knows how to take a CBCT because we're just looking for a long-term temp, and we don't really want to have to bring them in and train them on some of the stuff we're doing. So
Hmm.
that's one of the qualifying questions. Do you feel comfortable taking a CBCT on a patient? Um, so I mean, there's just kind of different things like that. Are you available to work these hours? Are you able to commute to this address? Like kind of questions like that. So sometimes they'll weed themselves out, or it weeds them out for me.
Gotcha. Okay. And so from that point on, when they fill it out, like that takes energy, right? Like that. Oh my god, they got to fill it out. More qualifying questions. Then at the same time, if they're they answer the right way, I mean, is there any part where you're like, oh, that's not the answer I'm looking for, but I'm still going to take a interview with them?
Yeah, so I mean, Indeed gives you like because I sponsor these job posts. So that's the other thing. Like you got to sponsor the job posts. If you try to do the free ones, you're not going to get enough applicants. But
Mhm.
Indeed gives you like 48 hours to reject a candidate, and if you do that in the first 48 hours of applying, they don't charge you for the application. So there'll be times where like someone's maybe not a perfect fit, but if I don't have a lot of applicants and I'm looking to hire quickly, I may still accept them and like kind of leave them there and kind of see who else comes in over the next 24 hours before I either reject them or decide to offer them an interview type of a thing.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. All right. I know we just got into it, but like, let's
Yeah,
rewind.
that's okay.
Yeah. Rewind a little bit and tell us a little bit about your past, your present. How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I went to dental school at the Ohio State University. I graduated in 2016. It was actually interesting because I did my undergrad at Michigan State. So I had two Big Ten competing school experiences. To the dismay of most of my dental school buddies, I'm still a Michigan State fan at heart. So that's my team, the Sparty.
Mhm.
When I graduated, I did public health for the first like 3.5 years. So I was living in Columbus. I was commuting about an hour and 15 minutes each way, 5 days a week. I had a Saturday job at a corporate office for about a year. So I was doing like 5.5 days a week. At that point, I think I just wanted to do as much dentistry as I could, get my speed up, my skills up, try to make a little bit of money. But it burns you out pretty quick, especially with the commute. And I pretty much knew right from the get-go that my eventual goal was to own a practice. I kind of looked at different opportunities between buying an office, starting an office. And around that time, my now wife and I decided we wanted to get out of the cold and move to Florida. So I actually found an office I was going to buy in Tampa in conjunction with our move. We had already sold our house in Ohio. We already had a deposit down for a lease in Tampa. And then like the 11th hour, after we had a signed LOI and everything else, the sellers backed out. It was like a husband wife, and the wife, I don't know if she just wasn't quite ready to retire or whatever it was. There were a few little negotiation points that she just didn't want to budge on at all, but they backed out of the deal. So my wife, Dana, kind of looked at me and was like, what are we going to do? Are we still moving there even without like you having a job or whatever it is? And I was like, yeah, like we wanted to move for a while. We'll figure it out. Like I'll take a job down there, and I'll start looking for either another office or to do a startup. And I pretty quickly decided, I don't want this to happen again where my fate's in someone else's hands. So I was like, I'm just going to do it my way. I'm going to do a startup. I signed on with Ideal Practices, startup consultants, like as I was getting ready to move to Florida. So
Mhm.
we kind of started the preliminary sequence of events, and I started looking for a space to build my practice, like basically right when I moved down, which was August of 2019. And I worked for, an office as an associate during that time where I was trying to find a space and finding a space and, getting a lease signed, starting the floor plans, kind of that whole process. I was just working for another dentist kind of right up until the very end. And I basically quit my associate job like the day that I opened the dental boutique Westchase, which was April 13th, 2021.
Gotcha, man. So then, I mean, you opened that today. Where are you at today?
So that office got off to a pretty quick start. And in December of 2021, so about 8 months later, I opened my second office, which was also a startup. And that one is Best Value Dentures and Implants. So I kind of wanted to build two different brands. The Dental Boutique brand is a general dentistry office. We offer most types of dentistry there, obviously hygiene. And we're kind of going for that patient experience, a more boutique type of feel. And then the Best Value Dentures and Implants, we essentially just do implants, implant dentures, all on 4 cases. I opened that with a partner who's a periodontist. So I'm kind of our business partner, managing partner, and he's like our clinical partner. Neither one of us actually work at the office. We just have like a super GP in there who's, doing all the implant work for us. So
So you opened that with a partner just recently, like on purpose. You didn't think you can do it on your own, or like it was like both of you guys decided we're talking and you're like, hey, let's do this.
yeah, I mean, honestly, Michael, I probably wouldn't have done a second startup so soon if it wasn't for the right circumstances. But my partner is actually kind of my neighbor, and we went to the same gym, and so we, just be talking as we were at the gym. And the one day I said that because honestly, I had never placed a dental implant, so it's kind of funny that I own this office that only does dental implants. But we were talking about my office and kind of how things were going, and I said to him, I said, hey, you're a periodontist, you work in a few offices, you guys, don't take a lot of insurances and have higher fees. Like there's this whole market out there for people that really want dental implants. There's a huge demand for it. What do you think about creating an office together that offers dental implants at more affordable pricing? And we can kind of capture that end of the market. I mean, obviously there's room for, Nordstrom as well as Walmart, and not that we're trying to cut on quality, but like, if we can figure out how to keep our overhead down, we don't offer hygiene, we don't offer other dental services. We're basically just offering dental implants. I bet we can make it work. And he loved the idea. I honestly thought he'd think I was crazy, but he's like, yeah, man, let's do it. And we just happened to very quickly, that was like August of 21. We had this discussion, and by October we had a lease signed, and by December we were open and seeing patients. That was a very quick kind of renovation. We actually found an old dental space that the dentist was no longer in, and so we just kind of revamped the space for our use. So,
Man, did you go with ideal practices for that too, or now you didn't? There's no need for that.
no, I didn't. I was still doing their like mastery programs. They've got like a mastermind, after you start. So they did kind of help me with some of the stuff with some of the insurance credentialing and things like that. But at that point, I pretty much knew what I needed to do to kind of get the office open. So
Yeah, man, I thought it was like a business partner for a long time or something. But you know what? If you can trust somebody if you're like benching 225, 315, and you're like, you're my spotter, this is my life in your hands, and you can trust them, then you can trust them with opening a business. Okay, man. So like rewind a little bit. The sellers backed out of the deal when you were going to move. Why did you not just kind of play it safe and be like, let's just stay a little bit longer, find a good acquisition, let's take our time with this?
Once I get my mindset to something, it's very hard for me to kind of not pursue that any longer. So like once I had said, you know what, we're moving to Florida, I didn't want somebody else to make us not move to Florida. It's like you kind of, at the end of the day, you hold the control to make all the decisions that you want to for your life. And we had already decided that getting to warmer weather, being closer to the beach, I had decided as wanting to be a future business owner, going to a state with no state income tax would be a nice thing for us. So it's like, hey, we don't have kids yet. If we're going to make this move, 1,000 miles away, we should do it now. Now's the time to do it. And we'll just kind of figure everything else out along the way. And I mean, honestly, if you're have your mindset to do something, you'll figure it out. So
Yeah, I like that, man. I like that. And then you decided, and I know this is like a topic a lot of people who are thinking to do startups or acquisitions even, but mainly startups to kind of discuss ideal practices, right? Or do I go with a consultant, or is it breakaway? Like I've already been to breakaway seminars. Why do I need? So talk to me a little bit about that. Why did you decide to go with them?
I'm a big believer in that. I am not the smartest person out there. And, when it's something that I don't have a lot of experience in doing myself, like I'm going to bring on the expert to kind of help me do something as well as possible, especially something so big as starting my first dental practice. So, when I graduated dental school and I was doing that commute, out to Shelby, Ohio, out in the middle of nowhere, I was listening to these podcasts, the Dentalpreneur with Dr. Mark Costas and Bulletproof Dental. I started listening to Shared Practices. So there are some, other great dental podcasts out there that I had discovered at that point in time. And I feel like I gained a lot of knowledge from these podcasts, but at the same time, there's a difference between knowledge and actually implementation. And, could I have figured it out on my own and opened this practice? I'm sure I could have. Would I have made more mistakes along the way? Would I have been at the same place that I was when I opened with Ideal? Would I have faced, other delays or other issues? I think it's very likely. So, it's one of those things where, like, looking back, especially for my first practice, I'm really glad that I brought on a consultant that kind of had all the resources to help make sure that I opened my practice the best way I possibly could.
Gotcha. So that covers like the why we need the consultant part, right? Which is great. Right. But the ideal practice part, like why them?
Yeah, I mean, I did go to Breakaway. I did talk to them because they also offered fairly similar services at that point in time. I don't know. I guess maybe I got a better feel about the people with Ideal. I guess, going back to that trust thing, I felt like from having the conversations, the meetings, the interviews that I did prior to signing on with Ideal, I felt more comfortable putting my fate of my startup in their hands than I did in Breakaway at that point. But those are really the only two consulting services I looked into, because at that point, from what I had heard or obtained, like they were the niche areas for a dental startup, and I wanted to bring on a consultant who it's like, hey, like this is what they do. They do dental startups as opposed to just a general dental consultant who maybe helped with some startups, at different points in time in their career. So
got you. Okay, man, that's awesome. So then and we'll dive into the dental boutique, right, of Westchase. That was called, right?
yeah, yep.
Okay, so we'll dive in, and that was, you only had it for 8 months, and then you decided to open up a second office, right? So talk to me. How, first and foremost, what bank did you decide to go with for your loan?
So the dental boutique Westchase, I used Wells Fargo. So that was the first startup loan. And then the best value dentures and implants, we use Huntington Bank. And so now we're kind of talking with a number of banks, including those two, about getting our next loan for the next offices. So I will tell you that only gets tougher, despite whatever track record you may have. Even when you feel like all the numbers make total sense, banks don't love it when you just keep kind of opening offices. So that's kind of something I'm working on securing our financing right now. But one thing I've realized looking back as we're talking about banks is that if you can find a bank, if you're interested in owning multiple practices, if you can find a bank that does partner with dentists to grow and expand and kind of form, group practices and small DSOs, if you stick with the same bank for your different loans, it's a lot easier, because now the banks are like, yeah, we can help you, but we'd have to buy out this loan from, Huntington's like, yeah, we'd have to buy out your loan from Wells Fargo if we're going to give you another loan. And unfortunately, you've got pretty big prepayment penalties. So it's like, do I do $30,000 in prepayment penalties and let Huntington buy out my loan now? Or do I go the SBA route and I'm going to have similar fees and higher interest rate and, more hoops to jump through? So, hindsight being 2020, I wish that I would have went with the same bank for the first two loans. I think, at that point, it might be easier to stick with that same bank moving forward here. So.
Gotcha. Out of those two banks, which one would you wish that you went with?
Let's just say that no matter what bank you go with, there's going to be red tape. There's going to be issues. I'm not always the most patient person. So when I need something funded, when I need an invoice paid and I'm not getting a response right away, it gets frustrating. So, I probably had little minor issues with both banks at different times during the startup process, but unfortunately, I don't think that's something specific to those two banks. I think any bank you go with, especially the bigger banks, they've just got so much regulation, so much red tape, so much hoops to jump through. So which one was better? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a toss up, Michael.
Got you, man. Okay. So then, and really quick, these two other practices, are they also going to be like general, not really, boutique, special?
So I am building on the brands we've already created. So basically the two offices I own now are about 5 miles from each other. We're on like the northwest side of Tampa. The next area we're targeting is on the other side of the city. It sits about 40 minutes away. And so my plan is to actually put one of each brand in the same space. So we're going to have some shared physical space. We're going to share like a sterilization area. We're going to share a break room. And by having some shared spaces, we can actually put 13 operatories in 2 different offices in a 4,000 square foot space. So that's what I'm working on right now with my floor plan designer to figure out exactly how to best utilize the space to kind of make that happen.
Gotcha, man. Was this always the vision? Like, you're like, I'm going to have multiple practices. When you were in dental school, you were thinking like, oh yeah, I'm going to own and I'm going to have a ton, or no?
I mean, I think when you listen to as many dental podcasts as I have, and you hear some of the very accomplished people in dentistry, there's a lot of wavering back and forth. I mean, you hear about someone that did 5 practices or 10 practices or 15 practices, and how great it was and how organized and systematic they were with their growth. And you're like, hey, that sounds really cool. I'd like to do that. And then you hear about someone that built a mega practice, like Dr. Craig Spodak down in Delray Beach, where, I don't even know how many operatories he has, 20 something. And you're like, oh man, that sounds really nice to just kind of have one giant practice and keep everything in house. So, I think my goal was always growth. I don't know if I necessarily knew how I wanted to do it, whether it was, a bigger kind of mega practice or multiple practices, but I just think because when you're doing startups, you're typically pretty limited with how much space you can build out, just because of how much you can actually get in lending. So, I kind of maxed out that dental boutique practice at 7 operatories, and we now have all 7 up and running. We've got 3 hygienists. I'm bringing on a full-time associate to work with me. So, that practice is very quickly kind of getting to its maximum potential. So without actually moving it to a bigger space, my only other option was to do another practice. And I don't know, for me, I feel like, especially in an area that's growing, I would rather kind of have strategic practices in different locations of the city than try to just put all my eggs in one basket and just grow some kind of mega practice. So
Yeah. That's nice, man. I like that. Okay. So then fast forwarding back to where we're after your loan, real quick, how much was your whole build out for dental boutique with Westchase?
I want to say my total build out came to right around $300,000.
Okay.
So honestly, I got a couple bids, and so I would say this was one of the advantages of working with Ideal Practices, that they actually had a preferred contractor, and he came in about $40,000 lower than the other 2 contractors I bid out. So honestly, with the loan I got, my landlord was not willing to give any TI money, so I got a gray shell, and my other bids came in closer to like 340, 350. With no TI money, with the loan, and all the other expenses going into it, it would have been really tough to have gotten the project done at that $350,000 build out mark. So like having a contractor who came in lower and still did a great job, like that was huge for me.
Yeah. Was there any like delays or anything like that? Like major delays?
Yeah, so we signed the lease in June of 21, which was kind of like kind of still when COVID was early on. It was about a month after the shutdown ended in Florida. So, dental offices had just opened back up. I was just back seeing patients. Unfortunately, at that point in time, permitting was like super delayed. All of the city officials and everyone was like working from home. So our permitting, which I was told would take like 2 to 3 months, took like 6 months. So that was a major issue. And then like literally, I think we got our permit like the week before Christmas. So he's like, well, my guys aren't going to be working over Christmas. So we basically got started. They got started on my build out like right at the beginning of January. And we started seeing patients, mid-April. So January, February, March, it was about a 3-month build out period at that point from the gray shell to the finished office.
Yeah. And man, and you were saying how like you want things like, you know what I mean? Like, I want things now, man. Come on, like make it happen. And then
Yeah.
for that to happen, man, that's stressful. That's stressful right there.
Patience is a virtue that I've been working on, and I think as a startup practice owner, as a newlywed, things like that, I've got my wife and my business kind of teaching me to try to be a little more patient, but it's tough because, like I said, once I get my mindset, it's like, I just want to go, I want to make it happen. And, right now with these new practices, I've got some of the banks telling me, oh yeah, we can give it another year and we can help you when we've got, more track record at your current practices. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to wait another year though. I want to do it right now. So.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, man. So then right now, are you accepting all kinds of insurances? Are you planning to go fee for service or how's that look like?
So my dental boutique brand, the general office, we pretty much network with most of the PPOs, like through umbrellas like Carrington and Zealous and things like that. We don't take HMOs or Medicaid there. The implant office, we also take most PPOs. We don't take HMOs or Medicaid. But honestly, for the procedures we're doing, the all-on-4 cases, like most patients aren't using insurance. So, we've got a much higher like cash rate at that office, very, very low insurance rate. And honestly, for the next one of those offices, I may not even credential. So we might be like out of network PPO providers. I just think with the percentage of our patients actually using insurance there, it probably doesn't make sense to go through the hassle of it. For the dental boutique brand though, I mean, growing a general dentistry office with, fee for service. I mean, I've seen people do it and been very successful with it, but my main goal is to grow the practice quickly. I want to go from 1 to 3 hygienists, and just kind of fill out the schedule. So doing that without being an in-network provider for PPOs in a quick period of time, it's pretty challenging, I could imagine. So
Yeah. Okay. Awesome, man. And then right now, currently, how many employees do you have?
So with our new associate doctor starting, I think we're going to be right around 10 or 11 employees. So that's for the dental boutique office. I've got another 5 employees at the implant office.
Gotcha. And then the dental boutique, that's open 4 days out of the week?
Yes. So we're open Tuesday through Friday, and then the implant office is like Monday through Thursday. So
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Tuesday to Friday. How many ops does the general one have?
we've got 7 ops fully equipped. So we're at like so when we first opened, we had 4 operatories and we had 3 empty rooms. And so I decided to buy these massage chairs off Amazon. Like best Amazon purchase I ever made. They were like $700, but they were like legitimate massage chairs, like the ones you'd see at Brookstone. So 2 of our rooms had massage chairs in them. And so if a patient came and was like, or like the spouse of a patient or the parent of a patient, they could go sit in the massage chair, watch Netflix while their spouse or kid or whoever was getting their dental work done. And those times where the office was running a little bit behind, it's like, hey, like, let's bring you back, let's get you a massage before your appointment, type of a thing. So it was a little bit bittersweet getting the 7th chair in there, because we had to say goodbye to the last massage chair, which I gave to my mom. So I think honestly she's probably getting more use out of it than the practice even was. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what'd you do with those? Like, that's nice though. That's nice. You know what I mean? Like that at the beginning kind of brought everything. You know what I mean? Like, oh, the boutique part of it. You know what I mean? Like a little part of it. So I think that would
yeah.
really be really good. If you don't mind me asking, you need to give me exact numbers or a range. What's production and collections looking like monthly?
Um, so I will say collections is not as high as production, because we do a lot of Invisalign. So we've got a lot of, we do office payment plans. It's 500 down, 500 a month. So we've got a lot of
Hmm.
Invisalign AR out there. There's also bad AR out there, which is something I'm working on cleaning up. I'm actually interviewing for an office manager. So I've been basically wearing, 3 hats so far. I've been the dentist, the CEO, and the office manager. And so I'm bringing another dentist to kind of give off part of that hat. And I'm going to cut myself down to 2 clinical days a week, which will be nice and give me some more free time to kind of work on expansion and everything else. And trying to give that whole office manager hat to somebody else. So it's been like that 7-day a week grind so far. And I know it's only going to get busier, and we've got our first child on the way. And so it's just like, I need to build my infrastructure before I, go completely crazy here. So,
Yeah.
getting back to your question, I wasn't trying to evade it or anything, but yeah, I mean, I'm pretty transparent. I did post on a Facebook startup group, kind of our numbers, because I wanted to show people what's possible. And I'm a really big proponent of the abundance mindset. Like, there are so many patients out there. There's so much dentistry to do. If you just treat people well, build your brand, market well, if you spend the money on the right things like marketing and things that actually have a return on investment, anything's possible. And you don't have to be one of those startups that kind of struggles for years to become a full-fledged practice. So we went from 0 patients in April of 2021. And by April of 2022, we had done 1.4 million in adjusted production. I think our collections at that point was like 1.1 something. So, we had a few $100,000 in AR. We still do. Some of it good, some of it bad that we need to clean up. But either way, it was that quick jump start that made me feel comfortable to kind of do another startup, and that has me feeling comfortable to do a couple more startups here. So.
Yeah, man, that's amazing. Well, before we dive into that really quick, the marketing and aspect of it, how do you feel you've started getting like the bad AR? Like, what would you start doing if you can restart and be like, okay, this is what I want to start implementing now? What would that be?
Yeah, so I think some of the bad AR is insurance AR. And I think it's because we didn't really have good systems in place as far as dealing with insurance billing and follow up on unpaid claims and things like that. I did outsource that like 6 months ago to a company called Elevate. And I think from the billing aspect, they've been doing a pretty good job of catching up on the really outdated AR. So like that actually has gotten better, our 90+ day AR. I'm still debating long term as I add to our infrastructure if I want to bring that back in house. But I think that was a big problem for us early on, for sure. I try to keep barriers low for patients to do treatment. So we do offer every single patient financing, whether we think that they want it or not. I'm a dentist, but if I go somewhere and I have the opportunity to finance something and the terms are pretty good, I'd probably rather finance it than pay it up front. Liquidity is huge. So what else do we do? Yeah, I guess my policy is on like actually are collecting the money owed maybe could be a little tighter, and we have kind of tightened them up as time has gone on. I think I was a little bit more lenient in the early going of letting patients split up payments more, and now it's we're pretty strict. We'll let them pay maybe half at the start of a crown, but like before they come back to be seated to deliver the crown, they have to pay the remaining balance. And I used to spread it out more, and I think it burned us with some patients. So it's like you want to help people out and you want to make it easier, but like the bigger your practice gets, like the bigger the problem can become if you don't have good systems as far as collections go.
Gotcha. Yeah, that could be. I mean, especially if you're just by yourself, like you're juggling a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then now you kind of do have to have like somebody. You know what I mean?
But I will say the Invisalign payment plan, I probably wouldn't change that. We haven't gotten burned much from it. I mean, the patients get a few trays at a time. They have to come back. They're on automated monthly payment plans now where it's like every month their card gets charged. And I really haven't had many issues with that. But I think for Invisalign, if you want to do a lot of Invisalign, it's really hard for patients to come in and just pay the full amount. And a lot of times they don't want to finance it. So I think that's the one thing where I'm happy that I offered the payment plan, and I'll probably keep that going moving forward.
Yeah. What finance company did you go with, and like software do you have?
We've got Open Dental. We use Swell for our new patient reviews, and we've got Flex. So I've had people tell me like, oh, that Flex does the new patient reviews and stuff too, and like I get it, but for whatever Swell charges monthly, like they're better at getting reviews. I mean, they're the best that I've seen. And I mean, we've got 770 Google reviews for the dental boutique in like 14 months. So again, that's where that abundance mindset comes in. And I have dentists say like, well, I don't want to spend another $200 on a software when I've already got a software that does this for me. And it's like, well, yeah, I get that, but what's $200 a month if it's going to like really excel your reviews? And I mean, part of it's just you have to still provide a great experience. You have to still ask patients for reviews. You have to send multiple review texts, because if you send one text, most people like see it and they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that later, and then they don't. But then when you send like the follow-up and the reminder, like a lot of people are worried about like offending patients or like getting annoying. And there may be a few patients here or there that have gotten annoyed by the follow-up text, but the vast majority are like, honestly, they just feel guilty because they're like, they did really provide a great experience. I did tell them I was going to write a review. It's on me. I keep forgetting to do it. And a lot of times, like to those automated, review reminders, we'll get responses like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I keep forgetting. Like, I'm going to do it today type of a thing. So, you can't be afraid to, I guess you can't be afraid to maybe annoy patients a little bit as far as asking for the reviews go if you really want to grow your reviews and testimonials and things like that.
Yeah, I like that. You can't be afraid to annoy patients. I mean, yeah, like I get you. You know what I mean? 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I can't be afraid to annoy patients. Like, so let's dive into the marketing and advertising of everything. How many new patients are you currently getting monthly?
The dental boutique office, we're scheduling around 200 new patients a month right now. So that's most of our practice. If you think about it, we've got 3 full-time hygienists. We've got 7 operatories to fill. We're about to have 2 different doctors working there. I guess me part-time, but so there's a lot of mouths to feed as far as the practice goes. And there's not a huge recall list yet because, the recalls as the practice keeps growing, our last recall cycle, we just had our second hygienist starting, in our 1-year recalls, we were just opened and, only had 1 hygienist. So most of our hygiene schedules, new patients, a lot of our treatments coming from new patients. So it's important that we kind of keep that gas on the fire there and keep the new patients coming in the door.
Do you make the hygienist do the recalls?
You mean schedule their own recalls? Yeah. I mean, that's kind of our policy. And again, like the first year, my main focus was growth. And this second year, my main focus is structure. So I've kind of went from growth to structure. We're trying to build out systems. We're trying to, again, bring in an office manager who's going to help me build these systems and also implement these systems. I recently actually signed on with the Dental Success Institute. So that's Dr. Mark Costas's consulting company. And they give you like a systemization score when you first start, and it goes up to 100. And I'm pretty sure that my systemization score was a negative number. So I've kind of got a long way to go there with the systemization. But again, that's kind of how I wanted to do it. I wanted to grow first, and then like, okay, now we've got this practice that's, a full-fledged dental practice. Now that we kind of know how we want to do things, let's make our systems, because we did have some basic systems when we first opened, but like startup systems aren't going to work for, like a full-fledged dental office. So
That's interesting. Okay. So then how did you grow so fast? What were you doing for marketing and advertising?
So before we opened the practice, it was a lot more ground marketing. I was getting out everywhere I could in the community, joined the Chamber of Commerce. It was usually me. So I was usually putting my face out there, we've got some local businesses that send a lot of their employees over here, and that, we've got a local restaurant that's awesome. It's called Mother's. We'll go over there for team happy hours or Christmas parties and stuff like that. So like, that was really fun. But very, very quickly, as we opened the doors, I realized I did not have time to do that. And I had my team do some of it. My brother moved from Pittsburgh down to Florida, and I was like, hey man, like, you're looking for a job, like you can help me out. And he was kind of our ground marketer for a few months, but that was right when we decided to open the other office. And so I was like, hey, I desperately need you to be my right-hand man at this office. So he's actually been our dental office manager over there since then. So our ground marketing's kind of fizzled out as time has went on, as I've perfected our Facebook marketing. And so I would say other than referrals, which, that base is growing, the bigger we get, but other than referrals, I would say Facebook marketing is probably like 90% of the rest of our new patients are coming from Facebook. So.
Gotcha. So what are you specifically doing with Facebook? With Facebook.
So I do have a full service marketing company. It's called Energize Marketing, and what's really cool about them is they've got a full service call center that responds to Facebook messages. So I do all these Facebook ads. They're all like message based ads. And then what happens is, right now with how much I'm spending on marketing, we'll get thousands of these messages every single month. And my marketing company will respond to these messages and try to get these patients booked for us. So, what are we advertising on Facebook? We're advertising things that actually is going to draw people's attention to click on it. Like, as much as you want to be like, oh, I want the right patient who sees our value of our practice and things like that, most people scrolling Facebook aren't going to see an ad that's like, oh, we're a great family dental practice, and like click on it and actually follow through. You need that shiny toaster to kind of draw them in. And so, we give away free whitening to new patients. So we've got our free whitening ad, and you've got to click on the ad and send the message to kind of get the whitening going. We'll do like discounts on like cosmetic work and Invisalign. So like we'll do get one free veneer for every 3 you buy for patients shopping around for, porcelain veneers. And we'll do like right now we're running our best special ever for Invisalign. It's like, we're calling it our summer sale, but it's basically like a couple $1,000s off our normal Invisalign price. And you've got to create the value. So you got to show like what's going to draw people in, but then you also have to create urgency, and you have to say like, hey, we're limiting this to 10 people, so like there's only 10 vouchers available or whatever it is. So if you create the value, you create the urgency, people will click on these ads, and then you've got the system in place. For us, it's our marketing agency with our call center to follow through. And from all that, it makes the ROI for our new patients, pretty affordable in the realm of things. Not to say that I'm not spending a lot on marketing, because I am. But again, if you want to grow and you want to grow quickly, like that's the last place that you want to skimp, is your advertising. So.
Got you. Okay, man. Yeah, I like that. I like how it's like urgency, right? Scarcity, one free veneer, summer sale, right? For Invisalign. When it comes to the company Energize, they're a call center too?
So Energize is a marketing company, but like within their marketing company, they built out a call center. So basically, I personally run a lot of my own Facebook ads because I'm just someone who needs to tinker with these things. And like, I have figured out things I really like that work well, but you don't have to do that. Like they also run their own ads for us. So like they'll run all your ads. They'll, host your website, do SEO, do Google ads. So like basically pretty much anything else that a marketing company would do for you, but they've also built this call center. And so this call center's been like that was a pivotal thing because I actually, I kind of figured out Facebook ads, and I worked with like an individual who basically built out Facebook ads and kind of showed me the ropes of how to start them. But I couldn't keep up with all the messages coming in. I mean, like I said, at that point, maybe it was like 1,000 a month. Now it's like thousands upon thousands of these messages coming in. So like even if I hired somebody like full time, there's no way that I think one person could keep up with all these messages. So that's where the call center's been really helpful. So.
And those are people who are like, yeah, I want the free whitening, I want the free veneer. Man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you figured out that work well on your own, and then you kind of like delegated that or told that to the Energize?
Yeah. So typically so what Energize recommends is doing the free consultations. So like they actually aren't typically advertising for like the new patient hygiene visits. But for me, I'm like, yeah, that's great to like fill all these new like free consultation spots. But like, I'm also trying to build out a schedule for my hygienists and trying to add, more hygienists and all this stuff. So basically I kind of brought to them these whitening ads that I had found. And like, so again, I'm running them, but they are responding to them. So like the whitening ads where the patient has to come in and get their cleaning and x-rays and exam done. Those are kind of my ads that, again, I had found through somebody else I was working with and kind of recreated to make them my own. And then I've got the Energize actually running the ads and I guess responding to the ads. So.
Yeah. Now, some people, because with ground marketing, I do that too. Like I'll sometimes be like, hey guys, free whitening, just put your name and number down, things like that. Quite a bit of people say or wonder, what kind of patients does this bring in? To you, what have you seen?
I mean, it's definitely a mixture. So, it's got to be something where you're okay with that. If you are trying to build a smaller practice where, you don't really plan to have an associate or not anytime soon. And you just, especially like a fee for service practice or, whatever it is, if you want to build a small practice of only the patients that you want to see, this probably isn't the right tactic for you because it is going to bring in a number of people that are mainly just interested in the free whitening. And some of them you're going to convert and they're going to get there and be like, oh man, I only came for the free whitening, but like, this is the best dentist office ever. I'm going to keep coming back here. And some of them are like, yep, got my free whitening. You're never going to see me again. So, while we see a lot of new patients every single month, our actual like active patient growth isn't as fast because we are definitely having that attrition from the people that are just coming for the free whitening. So that there's a downside to it for sure. But for me, that was worth it because I just was like, you know what? I just want to get as many people in the door as possible, and we'll try to convert as many of them as possible long-term patients through our experience. And the ones we lose, we lose. And, like, honestly, like those patients, we're probably not really making money on them, especially because we offer like a $98 special if they don't have insurance and things like that. But again, at the end of the day, I think it's enough volume that it's what's allowed us to grow this quickly for sure.
Gotcha, man. Okay. And then how much are you, if you don't mind me asking, how much for what you're doing? If somebody's like, I want exactly what Andrew has for Energize, how much is he paying?
I am spending around $20,000 a month on marketing. That's including my marketing management fees. That's including both the Facebook ads I run as well as the Facebook ads that Energize runs. That includes a little bit of Google ads because there's still some situations like emergency patients where Google ads work pretty well. But it's a much lower percentage that I'm spending on Google. Every once in a while, I do a little bit of print. I'm not a big fan of print advertising, but once again, for our Invisalign summer special, we've just been trying to hammer that. So we're sending out, a bunch of mailers, and I've got a full page magazine out, our local magazine for it too. So, kind of all that stuff put together, my monthly marketing budget for that office is around $20,000. And my monthly marketing budget for my implant office is pretty close to that. It's probably $17,000, something like that.
God, how many new patients are you getting there in the implant one?
Um, Not quite as many. We've got no hygiene. We've only got one doctor there, but again, because our main focus and our main advertising is for all on four cases and over dentures, things like that, it doesn't take as many patients to produce some pretty good numbers over there. So
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. All right, man. So then throughout this whole process, I guess from the moment you decided, let's talk about from the moment you decided to move down and open your practice to today, what's been some of the biggest struggles or fails or pitfalls?
um it's a good question. I mean, I would say trying to wear a bunch of hats at the same time is tough. And so that's why I'm trying to really put my focus on building systems and infrastructure and kind of building a team beneath me so that I don't have to be the direct point of contact for all of my employees and things like that. You basically feel like you can never stop working. And I mean, like for me, it's like right now it's okay. I don't have kids yet. And like, I know this is what I want to do. I want to build my brands and all this stuff. But I mean, it wears on you. You feel burnout. There's days, there's like Saturdays I wake up and I'm like, man, I've got like 10 hours of work to put in today and I don't feel like doing anything. I just want to go lay by the pool or, go hang out with some friends or whatever. So you've got to make sacrifices. I mean, I definitely don't have the social life that I had before I started doing these startups and things like that. My wife's made sacrifices. We don't have as much time for date nights or, trips and things like that either. So I would say that's probably the hardest part is just like the amount of work, the length of your to-do list. I mean, there's times where it's like hard to even prioritize, like what is the most important thing for me to work on, or like which office needs my attention today, like what's more pressing. It's tough when you've got like turnover, so like I said, like right now I'm trying to hire 3 employees. And it's because one, we're growing, but I'm also losing a front office team member who has been there from the start. So we haven't had a lot of turnover, which has been nice, but when you do, it's like all of a sudden everything else, I need to drop it because I need to make sure that I get these right people back in place and get somebody in as quickly as possible to kind of replace them and things like that. So, yeah, I would say that's been the hardest part for sure.
Man, yeah, that is that. What's been the mission, Andrew? Like, is it, I guess, like the goal? Is it more like, man, eventually I want to have like time, like freedom, things like that? Or is it more like, I just want to build this legacy? I want to do this. Like, what is it to you?
Yeah, I guess it's like that old cliche of trading time now for time later. So like I got it in my mind that, while I'm still relatively young and before I have kids and all this stuff, like I just want to work as hard as I can to kind of build a business. Like a lot of consultants or a lot of people out there will say like, if you're a dentist who has to work 5 days a week in your practice for the practice to produce revenue, you don't really have a business, you have a glorified job. And so like
Mhm.
I had heard that so many times, and like so that's what I was trying to avoid. Like if I'm going to build this business, I want to build an actual business where my wife and I and kids someday, like we can go on vacation and the business is still running without us, it's still producing revenue. And I think I could have eventually got there, but I think it would have been a much longer road if I didn't set my sights on such fast growth and hustle and all of that stuff. So I didn't, again, I'm impatient. So I didn't want to wait 15 or 20 years for this to kind of manifest itself. I wanted to make it happen faster. And so that's my goal. It's like future time, future freedom. It's not like I'm trying to like retire at 40 or whatever, but like I want to have a well-run business that, doesn't require me to work 60, 70 hours a week by the time I, am that age for sure. So.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, that's good, man. I like that. And then any last piece of advice you want to give to people who are probably in their first phase, or they're like, I want to do exactly what Andrew's doing, or they're thinking about doing a startup?
Yeah. I touched on it briefly before, but I think having an abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset is like the biggest thing. And like, you can change your mindset. Like, even if you're like, oh, that's not me. Like, I'm frugal. I don't take risks. I'm, conservative with all my decisions. Like, you can change just because you've been that way your whole life. I would listen to the great podcasts out there. If you've got a new practice and you don't have a consultant already, I would try to find a great dental consultant who's kind of helping you grow. You can't be afraid to take risks. I mean, it's very difficult to build a successful business, especially a startup business. I mean, we're fortunate that we're in a field where you don't have to be a great business owner to have a relatively successful dental practice. But a lot of the other professions out there, I mean, think about the percentage of restaurants that fail in the first year, or the first 3 years, or the first 5 years. And so, again, like, yeah, you can probably get by with a scarcity mindset and without putting in all the work and without taking the risks, but you probably are going to end up 10, 15 years from now just having that same glorified job where it's like, man, I could have probably made almost as much money as an associate dentist at another office where I didn't have to deal with all of this extra crap as I'm making now, working like the same amount. And so, like, if that's not what you want, then you've got to have that abundance mindset. You got to take the risks. You got to believe in yourself. You've got to invest in yourself. You've got to invest in your practice. You can't be scared to spend money that you don't feel like you have. Again, if you're spending it on the right, if you find marketing that works for you and you spend money on the right type of marketing, you're going to see returns that are far greater than the money that you're spending as you build your business. So that would be my main piece of advice. And I think that could apply to just about any dentist out there.
Yeah, that's true, man. Man, I love that. Okay. Awesome, Andrew. Thank you so much for being with us. It was a pleasure. But before we say goodbye, can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am on Instagram. It's just Dr. Vallo. I am on Facebook. I'm in a lot of the different dental Facebook groups. So you may have seen me on there. Because of all my different Facebook ads, I actually have a few different Facebook profiles. So I might be Andrew Michael somewhere. I might be Andrew Vallo somewhere. If you want to pick my brain about something, you can feel free to send me an email. I'll be honest, I may not be the fastest to respond, but I will try to eventually get back to you. Best email address for me is docvallodds@gmail.com. But yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to have me on here today, Michael. I've been fortunate, I think, with the growth. I mean, again, I had my sights set on something and I put my mind to it, but at the same time, I do feel like I've been very fortunate with how quickly the office has grown here. And I am thankful that I get the chance to kind of share what we've done. So hopefully this can help other dentists that are starting their practice in early phases of their practice, or even dentists that are later in the phase of practice and they just want to grow and they want to create a business out of the job that they currently have. So.
Yeah, no, man, we appreciate you, man. I'm excited in like a year from now to be like, oh, we're on practice number 13 with Andrew. How's it going, man? And then he's like, oh yeah, it's gonna be nice.
My wife would probably kill me if that was the case. But
congrats on your kid, by the way, man. That's awesome. That's really nice, man. Is it when is your wife due?
Our due date's December 14th. So we don't know what we're having yet. Apparently it's in an envelope somewhere and we're just deciding exactly when we want to find out. But it's exciting. It's a little bit terrifying. I think everything else going on with the offices has kept me pretty distracted from it. But these next 6 months, things are going to get pretty real. So
yeah. Awesome, man. So we're excited to see that and like more of your transformations and growth and everything like that. And guys, if y'all have any questions, go in the show notes below and reach out to Andrew. And Andrew, thank you so much for being with us. It was a pleasure and we'll hear from you soon.
Thanks, Michael. Take care.